Our lives are a string of insights, flashes of inspiration that can be the catalyst for new ideas. However, our pace of life these days means we tend to miss some of them completely. I'm Dave Hill, and I'm the host of the Simple Reflections podcast, a fortnightly series of interviews with people from all walks of life. Our conversations are an invitation to reflect on some of the simple insights my guests have had that have gone on to have a profound impact on their lives. So grab a cuppa and a biscuit, join us, slow down for a little while and see what shows up for you. Welcome to the next episode of the Simple Reflections podcast. Today I'm joined by Greg Fisher. Greg is a clarity coach based in Ontario in Canada. I nearly tried to pronounce that name, but it's not coming. Anyway, that's fine. Greg and I met through Jamie Smart while I was doing Jamie's clarity certification training last year. Greg was on the advanced course, and I've had the pleasure of spending a lot of time with him, which has been awesome. He has a company called Coaching Please, which is a platform for him to share what he's up to in the world, but also to bring in other coaches and allow them an opportunity to share what they're up to, which I think is a wonderful gift and it's a lovely thing to see. He is also the author of 2 books, Lessons from the Force and Happy Hockey Dads, and is currently hosting a podcast called Coach to Coach. Greg, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. I wonder what's been the most surprising thing for you on your journey from a corporate career through to becoming a coach, and I know that's been a fair chunk of time. So finding the thing might not be for something, but the thing that jumps to mind for you right now that's that you're very grateful for.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that occurs to me is just how much fun I'm having. It's only Tuesday. I probably had more fun this week than I did in I won't over exaggerate, but than I, the average month in the corporate world, I probably didn't have this much fun in a month as I'm having in a day and a bit this week. And part of that is, the pressure or the stress of doing what I do now as an entrepreneur and a coach is much different. But more than the obvious differences between being in the corporate world and being an entrepreneur, it's who I am today is much different than the Greg Fisher that left the corporate world behind in 2019. So I've things I thought were absolute truths and certainties in 2019 look utterly ridiculous to me now.
Yeah. I think we can all probably relate to that in terms of how things seemed when we were younger in a different world and how we see those very same things now. I think what's interesting is the fact that we are helping people these days navigate their world, so hopefully they see how to navigate it more easily themselves. That brings a curiosity and an openness to seeing that stuff more deeply, and an understanding of how it seems to hang together for us now. And I wonder if we were to pick ourselves up and plonk ourselves down in 5 years' time, how we think about how we see things now compared to then. I have absolutely no doubt that I'll be seeing things more clearly than I do at the moment, and I'm really excited about that.
For sure. Yeah, I remind people all the time, people. I've got some clients who are in the job search mode because their company is restructured or various things going on in the world economy has resulted in their position being removed. And I invite them to one thing I know for sure, 5 years from now, if they look back, even though they're in the middle of chaos right now, in all likelihood, they'll look back and go, I'm so happy that happened, because they're being set on a new path, a new journey, Um, so yeah, for me personally too, it helps me navigate the moment with the certainty that hindsight will offer a completely uh, clear picture of all these little ups and downs. I mean, I feel like my life is on a trajectory. I mean, my corporation, my incorporated name is Team Unleash Your Potential. In the logo, my niece drew this rendition of it behind me. My 6 year old niece, which is a red arrow, kind of breaking out of the circle, but it's this upward trajectory of life of potential that we all have. So like that's it's kind of knowing that we all have that potential to move in that direction, which gives me certainty that, you know, whether it's 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, whatever seems to be occupying our minds today will look much different in hindsight when we get to where we're going.
Mm.
And you use the word navigate, which had me thinking, it's um, the way I look at it now versus the way I probably looked at it in my corporate career was less about a destination and more about the journey, right? Like I'm helping people navigate in a direction of who they really are and how their experience is created, and not so much about getting a job title or a paycheck or achieving any particular goal. It's more about navigating in the direction of what's true.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. I'm playing around with an idea at the moment that I don't think is going to have a particular goal. It's
Mm,
going to have a start point and an end point, and that is it.
mm,
Um, when I was 18, I set off on a it was supposed to be a gap year, but it ended up being 3 months because some other opportunities came up to go traveling elsewhere. But I took myself to Australia,
mm.
and it was my first ever flight. I'd never flown anywhere, so I flew to the other side of the world, which was,
Good
quite
place
a
to
step.
start.
But anyway, that was good fun. Um, but the only thing I knew when I landed was when I was coming home. I had
Mm,
nowhere to stay. I had no plan really. I knew I had some friends who were about 13 hours away um, from Sydney when I landed, and that they'd be there for a week, and after that they'd be gone. So I didn't know where
mm,
they'd be. So that was the loosest bit of other than needing to get back to Sydney by a certain date.
mm.
And I learned so much. I learned so much. Yes, I could have done things way more efficiently than I did,
Yeah.
but actually, if I'd been clinical about it, I wouldn't have probably had the same experience as the one that I did.
Mm,
Um, so I'm thinking about creating a container for exactly that, to allow
mm,
people to explore together and see what shows up with nothing on it other than we know we're going to finish on a certain date.
mm.
See what we
Yeah.
learn on the way.
Love it. What's one of the questions I've learned from Jamie Smart on his program was for what purpose? And almost presupposing that question, or at least the way most people hear it, is the purpose of whatever the attaining a goal is or the destination. And I've come to see it more about, for what purpose to have an adventure,
Mm.
to explore, to learn, for what purpose fly to Australia with no plans. Well, that's exactly it, to to discover the unknown.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that sounds amazing
It was cool. It was
and
cool.
terrifying at the same time.
But the moment it felt terrifying was being dropped off in the snow in London by my dad and wandering
Mm,
into the airport going, "Oh my goodness, what have I done?"
mm,
But by the time I'd got in through the door and then worked out how the whole check-in process worked, I
yeah,
was in the washing machine of travel, and that was
sure.
it. I was then off on an adventure,
Yeah.
and I was in the grips of it. So there was a moment of uncertainty,
Mm,
uh, at which point I could have just turned around and walked back and got in the car.
yeah.
Um, but it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think the the most exciting thing about coaching people is walking alongside them, whether that's physically or metaphorically,
mm,
as they're exploring.
mm,
Not saying this is the way to go, but seeing which way we're both going to go as a result of the conversation that we're having,
yeah.
and knowing that the largest benefit they're going to get from the whole process will be something that neither of us have any idea about at the start.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. It's such a refreshing way to view the world, which is um, accepting that. Like, how would we know? Like a lot of people think we should know, but really, how could we? You as a coach or the client. I mean, that's the thrill of going into the unknown. Is there's no way to know what's there for us. All that I know as a coach is the certainty that you'll find what you need there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that whatever we find, there'll be stuff to learn from.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah.
I'm curious as you describe that trip as an 18-year-old. Um, Obviously, you're somewhat older than 18 now.
Just a little
I'm
bit.
imagining that trip was kind of uh, you could probably trace back many experiences throughout your life between now and when you were 18 that um, that trip was an influence on. That
Yeah.
that without that trip, you may not have ever tried X, Y, or Z, or you may not have done certain things. I'm wondering if that's if you know
I
if you
think it
that way.
sparked an interest for me in certain things. Uh, I found that I loved whitewater rafting because I'd never
Mm,
done that before. So whenever it came up as an opportunity, I'd be, yep,
yeah.
let's have some of that. But it also, I suppose, allowed me to step beyond my comfort zone. So I
Mm,
remember when the first time I was ever in your beautiful country, um, probably 20 plus years ago, um, in a small place called Wainwright. Uh, at some point in our 6 weeks there, we spent a week adventure training, and we went up into the Rockies, and I had signed up to go paragliding for a week. So
mm,
that's where my mindset was for that. Um, and when we arrived and got off the bus and started thinking about all the kit that we needed to pick up to be able to go and do our various things, there was one young rifleman, soldier from my battalion, who was just really upset with the thing that he'd been landed with, which was um, some alpine climbing.
mm,
He just wasn't up for that. He'd heard miserable stories about carrying lots of weight and being very cold. And I said, look, I'll swap. Um,
mm,
I'll swap with you. And from 3 or 4 weeks of knowing I was going paragliding to, right, I've got 30 minutes to actually think about a completely different packing list, meet a whole
mm,
load of new people. Oh, and I'm now the driver, right? I've got to go and do my driving test for driving in Canada. All of that
mm,
stuff happened in the next couple of hours. And then I found myself with crampons attached to my feet, with two other soldiers that I'd never met before and two guides. I had a wonderful week and saw some things that I never would have done
mm,
uh, if it hadn't have been for that moment. Um, yes, it was hard work, but what an experience!
mm,
Um, standing on top of Mount Athabasca, having climbed up it, having set off at 2 in the morning, so that we got up there before things started thawing too much, so that we could get back down safely. Um, just unbelievably cool.
mm,
Um, so there are. I suppose it gave me the opportunity to give myself permission to say yes to things that I might not have done,
mm.
or even call out when I'm doing something that doesn't seem to serve me, but goes against the grain of everything else.
Yeah.
There've been a couple of occasions where I've just dug my heels in a certain job and said, this isn't my thing. I
mm,
need to change. I did that twice in the army and twice in civilian life afterwards.
mm,
Um, and the interesting thing was putting up with more and more pain and discomfort in the thinking around what was going on there and not understanding where that was coming from.
mm.
And then the absolute relief, having created chaos by telling people what it was that I was intending to do,
Yeah.
and going, well, the cat's out of the bag now. Let's roll with this, and this feels great in comparison to where I was
Mm,
before. Uh, what's exciting now is I have an understanding about what was creating that discomfort in me, my
mm,
thinking,
mm.
and what taking action meant in terms of stopping me going down that unpleasant rabbit hole of thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that story. I'm curious if you did you ever circle back or meet up with that, I'm assuming, gentleman that you swap places with?
Um,
Uh,
we were. I don't seem to remember talking with him about it afterwards. We were part of the same company, so we certainly would have seen each other. He wasn't in my
yeah,
platoon.
yeah,
Um, I think I may have asked him if he had a good time, but I
yeah.
don't remember his answer. I expect it was better than I thought, better than the other thing, which he was making up because he had no idea of what
Sure,
the opposite option was.
sure.
Interestingly, I've still never been paragliding, and I'd love
Mm,
to one day.
mm.
So there's an
Put
itch
that on your
still there to
bucket list.
scratch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Your adventure to Australia. I'm curious if that how that has informed your parenting with your kids in terms of. Um, I mean, I have two kids of my own, so I know I've there's many things I've tried to work deliberately to facilitate for my kids that were the same or different than my upbringing. I'm just curious for you, like if you're as open to their having adventures versus the protective dad gene kind of kicking in.
Mm. I am open to them having adventures. Uh, I also know that if I am over enthusiastic about things,
Mm,
they're less likely to take them up. My eldest is 18. She's in a wonderful window of opportunity at the moment between finishing school and starting university,
mm,
where she's just sitting waiting for results. And actually, those results don't mean anything because she's already got a space at university. Um, she could be doing anything she wants.
mm,
At the moment, she's unsure what that is, and
mm.
that's okay. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
Um, but we've been floating ideas like, you know, why don't you go traveling with a friend?
yeah,
Alone?
yeah,
Yeah, why not? You're 18, you're adults. Just
yeah,
go and explore. You know,
yeah,
you've got the time, you've got the funds.
yeah,
Why not?
yeah.
Um, so that, the opportunity is there, whether it's seized is a different thing.
Mm,
And if it's not, that's cool. There'll be other times. She will fledge when she's ready.
yeah,
Um, uh, it's yeah, allowing them to feel the discomfort of new ideas and then seeing what comes off the back of that and being as
yeah,
supportive as I can be. That's all I can do.
yeah. Love it. Well, my kids are 21 and 19, and this past fall was they were both away at university. So my wife and I found ourselves as empty nesters. But it's interesting when they come back because I mean they move away to school and they're independent adults living on their own, keeping themselves accountable for going to school and doing their work, working part-time jobs, buying their own groceries, cooking their own meals, having, significant others in their lives. And then they come back home and it's so easy to fall into the trap of like trying to put them back in the kid box
Mhm.
kind of thing. So it's been we've had to be very deliberate about recognizing that they're they're all grown up and
Mhm.
not playing the our roof, our rules card too much, and letting them have some freedom and
Yeah.
respecting the fact that who they are now and how they've. And I mean, we've. Uh, my wife and I can take a little bit of credit for bringing them up in such a way that they're um, pretty responsible adults now. So yeah, it's been a fun experience watching them grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited for both of my girls, 18 and 15. They have,
Mm,
the world has always been a tricky place and will continue to be so.
mm,
Um, but they are more than equipped to navigate that, even if they feel they're not. And
yeah.
I think that's potentially the difference between how I might have seen things and how I
Mm,
see them now.
yeah.
But understanding that they are the creators of their own experience and
Mm,
that they are absolutely fine wherever they are. They've got the capacity to slow themselves down and see that.
mm,
Um, so if anything, I will always be there to support. Uh, but I am also hugely respectful of their own ability to make sensible decisions for
mm.
themselves and for others.
Beautiful.
Mm. Um, Sitting over well, as I'm looking at it, uh, your left shoulder, whether it is or not, I don't know,
Yeah.
is your, I think, latest book, The Wisdom of the Force. I wonder what it was that led you to create that. And apart from your love of Star Wars and the the parallels between what it is that we teach people, how the
Yeah.
direction in which we're looking, and the parallels that are in the Star Wars story. Um, what was the most fun thing that came out of that whole process for you?
Mm. I love that question. It's funny that the so I wrote the book and then I did a 5 week program where we covered two quotes. So the book is 10 quotes. So I did two quotes a week for 5 weeks. And part of that program is I would find the clip on YouTube of the scene that the quote was from and kind of rewatched it. So I was born in 72 and I think Star Wars came out in 77. So I was somewhere between 4 and 5 years old, depending on when in the year. And I vividly remember going to see the movie in Toronto with my dad, my brother, and friends of ours from down the street. And they had one of these old station wagons with I think they called it the rumble seats or whatever in the back, and all the kids piling in. And so as I'm rewatching these clips, in 2025, I'm flashing back to 1977 or depending what movie it was, um, years past that, going like, just think of trying to imagine what the 4 or 5 year old Greg would have been like, how my mind must have been blown because like now things like lightsabers and spaceships and special effects and fantastical creatures from God knows where, it's all kind of like, whatever. But I mean, in that time in my life, and obviously in the 70s, like there was no internet, there was no, I don't know, other media. Like you went and watched the movie once and that was it generally. And then you and your friends would just talk about it and imagine things. But I've been trying to think like, oh my God, like here's a scene. This is probably the first time in my life I ever saw a lightsaber. Like, what, my mind must have been just like blown away. Which I think is what partly why, you know, now at almost 53 years old, I'm still in love with Star Wars. um, and find it as awe-inspiring and amazing now as I did then. And kind of the inspiration for doing the book when I did. I launched it on May the 4th, of course, Star Wars Day. But leading into that, I think season two of Andor they were a lot of advertising stuff promoting that coming out, and that kind of rekindled my whole bug. And I've been on this quote book kind of journey since last July or so. And it just occurred to me one day. It's like, oh yeah, I think I heard a line or something like, that would be a great quote. And I'm like, oh yeah, I could do a little book of Star Wars quotes. And so I went in and explored, found 10 that I liked. And then as I was writing the content for it, I was just blown away by how aligned it was with everything that I've been learning and coaching. I mean, obviously, when you're in deep in something, you kind of see it everywhere.
Hmm.
So, I mean, part of it is me projecting what I'm already thinking and noticing about the three principles into, like, I can probably say with certainty, like, George Lucas wasn't thinking about the three principles when he wrote Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Although the fact that the three principles is pointing to truth, in a way, George Lucas was thinking about the truth of how things work, I think, when he
Mm,
wrote it. But yeah, I've been amazed at just how easy it's been to kind of mesh the Star Wars universe with my coaching universe, and how pulling like, even, one of the quotes in the book is, "These aren't the droids you're looking for," and relating that to how we often look for things where they aren't.
mhm.
Um, and so, that's been a lot of fun, and just rekindling my love of Star Wars. And yeah, it's
That's
amazing.
cool. I think it's I love the idea for a couple of reasons that might surprise people.
Mm,
Um, the one that's probably less surprising, because those that have heard me speak before know that I absolutely enjoy love and love laughing and looking for the fun in things.
mm,
Um, I know if you can help create levity and joy, there is more chance for curiosity and seeing things with fresh eyes. So I'm on the hunt for it all the time, and so your book, just the thought of it does that.
mm,
Um, and secondly, what I've known and noticed working with clients from many different backgrounds is if they have a problem with something in their life, they're quite possessive about it.
mm,
And while it might be something that they enter into a coaching agreement about to try and help navigate, resolve, whatever, um, it is also quite a touchy thing. And what the beauty of your book does is it creates a sand pit, for want of a better term, to go and play around in,
mm,
of other humans doing things,
mm,
um, in a completely fictitious setting. In this, in the quotes from your book, um, that allow people the opportunity to put their baggage down and
mm,
go and play.
mm,
And when they start playing with concepts and seeing things more clearly in an alien world,
yeah,
um, they'll probably start drawing parallels back to their own world and go,
mm,
huh, that is fascinating. I never saw it like that before.
yeah,
And I think, the the juxtaposition between the content of your book and where it's pointing and its potential to help other people with completely other thing, completely
mm,
um, different subject matter is huge. And
yeah,
I think that's one of the brilliant strengths of it,
yeah,
without actually having read it.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because when I introduced my program for it, my thought was, this will appeal strictly to Star Wars people. Like, that's kind of the prerequisite. Anyway, one of the ladies that joined, I mean, she knows about Star Wars just from pop culture and stuff, but she'd never really seen the movies and stuff. So it's actually been fun because I've had to explain, like, before I play a clip, like, oh, okay, so this guy's Chewbacca the Wookiee, and this is R2D2, and like trying to explain the context for the scene or whatever. Um, but she's commented many times through the program, like, wow, there's a lot more, I'm getting a lot more out of this than I thought. Like, she thought it would just be kind of a fun, quirky kind of way to look at things. But, there's one of the quotes is, "Let go of your hate," which is Luke Skywalker talking to Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. And we had a whole conversation around forgiveness and things. And I don't know why, but usually when I'm approaching that conversation, I think of it from the context of, like, me forgiving others. And this particular example came up, she said, no, the person that needs to that did the bad thing was me. I need to forgive myself. And it was like, there's a that was a huge insight that she
Yeah.
had. And then from her sharing that, I had a huge insight myself around just a totally different perspective around forgiveness. And um yeah, it was and again, it just blew me away again how, something that's been so fun to create in terms of relating what I do in coaching with Star Wars, it's had a profound impact on myself and a few other people already. So it's one of those things that really feels like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Like
It
this was
sounds like
I
it.
didn't create this; it was kind of created through me, kind of feeling.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, when we create things, we have no idea of the second and third order consequences of
Hmm.
that in terms of the impact that it has in other people's lives. And um, it's something to be mindful of, but equally something to be in awe of,
Mm.
because we can create stuff and share it and have no idea where it goes.
Yeah,
Um, this whole podcast started as an idea of a friend going, Dave, you're quite good at interviewing people. Maybe you should have a podcast. Okay, what does that
yeah,
look like? And
yeah.
then here we are 2 years later, um, 60 plus episodes, and it's been listened to, watched in over 60 countries
Wow.
just by, you know, it, bizarrely just putting it on the platform, and people were listening to it before it told anybody it was there. It was,
Yeah,
some form of algorithm have gone, oh right, I think you might like this, and sent it to people, and they started listening to it.
yeah,
Nuts.
yeah. That's what I'm in awe of the time that we live in, right? Like for as many problems and issues and things that there are going around in the world today. I mean, the fact that, I always often joke that my English teachers from high school are rolling over in their graves at the mere thought of me publishing books. Because I was never really a particularly strong English student, but um, the fact that I can just have an idea, create a book, and self-publish it on Amazon KDP, and you know, I think I've got book sales in 9 countries.
Awesome.
Um, and you know, and you can create a podcast, like you said, from an idea that a friend gave you, and run with it and have it in 60 countries, and who knows what the second, third, fourth order impact, the ripple effect of that has been around the
Mm.
world. Um, so yeah, it's a great time to be alive and be aware of and in touch with the fact that we are the creator. We are creating our own experience, and we can create. If you can. There's a Disney Channel show I used to watch with my kids called Ant Farm, and the opening song said something like, "If you can dream it, you can be it," and something like that. But it was, literally, you can come up with an idea and have it on a platform that reaches every corner of the planet. It's amazing.
It is. It is.
I don't know about you, but the more I act on the nudges of the inspiration and the things to create, it's almost like turning the tap on. Like the more I engage with that, the more ideas I have.
Hmm.
And it's just this. I don't know. I'm so grateful that it seems to me like there's just an infinite amount of inspiration and ideas that's available to us. Um, and I mean, I can't even keep up with every conversation I have. I'm making notes, and I'm like, that could be a post. That could be a post. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
Ditto. I spent 2 hours last week. I managed to get, uh, I think, 2 months back in my notebook of capturing the things that I thought maybe
mm,
that I could do that. I could do that.
yeah,
Okay, right. I need to sort of, it would be good to capture this in a way that I can easily access it again.
yeah,
Um, that more to do, I think, on that front. But
mm,
but it's it's, you're so right. There's looking in a certain direction with a almost childlike curiosity brings around a creativity that has always been there, but has potentially been suppressed by me for whatever reason.
Mm,
Now the lid's off. Let's see what can be created,
yeah,
and see who's up for the ride of that, and see where we can go. Um, yeah, it's exciting times, as you say.
yeah, yeah. There's a poem that Jamie shared with us called "Cargo" by Greg Kimura. And there, I won't recount the entire poem, but there's three lines and it says, "You have gifts. The world needs your gifts. You must deliver them." And that's kind of, you know, where I the zone that I like to live in is just, like when I get an idea, it's like I know I have to do this. Like this has been gifted to me from a higher power or whatever you want to call it, and it's my responsibility to deliver this out into the world. And what happens to it from there, I don't know.
Mm.
That's above my pay grade. That's whatever happens will happen. But um, yeah, I love the idea, and not just me, like you and everyone else too. That each of us has our own special gifts that the world needs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Greg, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Is there anything particular that you would like to pick up on? I'll put links to both your books in the show notes for this, but is there anything else that springs to mind?
Yeah. Well, whatever I'm up to, you can always find on coachingplease.com. There's links on there for both my books, The Wisdom of the Force and Happy Hockey Dad. Both two things I've had a blast creating, and I'm working on kind of these books were kind of offshoots of my bigger project, which is a 52 quote book that's going to launch probably towards Christmas time this year, and will be the kind of the foundation for what I do in 2026. And that's
Nice.
just simply called Unleash Your Potential. So, yeah, people can find everything I'm doing coachingplease.com. That's the best place to look.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining me today. I'm hugely grateful that working with Jamie brought you into my life. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Speaking of second and third order implications, I mean, this is a perfect result of being part of Jamie Smart's community and so on. I love it. Every day I'm grateful for all the people I've met all around the world. That's what's, speaking of technology and what's available, like the fact that, you know, you're in the UK, I'm in Canada, and we can just jump on a Zoom call and have this conversation. It's amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, have a beautiful day, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. It's been my pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed the conversation, feel free to subscribe and join me and my new guest next time. If you're interested in the work I'm doing, or you think I can be of service to you or your organisation, please email dave@simplicityofmind.co.uk. Remember, see if you can find time to slow down and reflect. Those simple ideas might be worth listening to. Take care, and I hope you can join me in a couple of weeks.